In the meantime, Vince, my question for you, it's an easy show for you
I
today.
mean,
Are you ready for rapid fire?
let's do this. This is not my day, and so any rapid fire is a great rapid fire. So I'm fired up for today.
Yeah, not your day. Apparently, Jesse has run into the old big boss man at work, cracking
Yeah,
deadlines. They've got some project deadline, and
that happens.
things happening, and late work, and
Yeah,
everything else. So,
yeah. That
well,
happens.
since you missed most of the Brian Higgins interview, we started the show talking with Brian from ESPN Syracuse, and we talked about where Steve Angeli stands after he transferred to Syracuse from, of course, Notre Dame here to join Fran Brown's team up there in Syracuse. I asked Higgins if Angeli and LSU transfer Ricky Collins, who was named the starter before Syracuse's spring game, if they're now in a true two-man quarterback competition.
I've not heard Fran address it yet. My guess is Fran is very much a man of his word guy. So my guess is he's not. And I think it was also very interesting. Like I was watching last Friday night. All right, are any of the other quarterbacks going to leave now? Nobody left at that point, which I found very interesting. Not even the third or the fourth string guy. I bet it's a legit two-man battle. Based on how I sense Fran handles business, my guess is the second he was bringing Angeli in, I bet I don't know this is just my guess. My guess is one of his first calls was to Ricky to tell him the deal. Like, hey, he's very much, I want you to hear it from me. Like, I bet he called Ricky. He's like, hey, we're bringing this dude in. If he signs here, you guys can go at it. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my guess. And realistically, I know Angeli had that great moment for Notre Dame in the semis with like one drive. He hasn't played a lot. He's played more than Ricky, but he hasn't played a lot. Ricky's barely played. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't have a real quarterback battle to find out. Because to me, right now, I don't think it's obvious who's better.
I saw the look on your face, Vince. I saw it when he said one drive.
I mean, is he wrong?
So what do you think? What do you think?
I think that's a pretty legitimate response. I mean, I think that that is the way it should go. I think that even though he named Ricky Collins as the starter, he thinks he found at the very least competition to bring him in, right? And I think you're always looking to make your football team better. So I mean, it's not like he went against his word or anything like that. But I think that's legit. They're talking about he's talking about it's a two-man race, a two-man battle. Okay, good. I like it. I think that's the way it should go.
I'm sure they weren't expecting someone from a program like Notre Dame, and specifically, obviously, Steve Angeli, to necessarily pop up on their radar as quickly, and like just for the people, DK saying Bergen Catholic, not Don Bosco. That was, maybe the one slip that Brian had. He confused which high school. He didn't know the high school that the transfer from Notre Dame went to. So forgive him. He at least had the right state. They're both in New Jersey. But look, you've got a couple of guys from big time programs coming in, and to me, it's, I guess, a little surprised that he would have named a starter going into the spring game rather than waiting until after it. But if there wasn't a true competition, which it doesn't sound like there was, like at the time, Collins was the guy. Now you've added another guy of at least similar talent, skill, overall skill sets and all that, are going to be different between the two. But you've added a guy at the very least. I think it's good for your program that you would have a competition between two guys like this who had, a pretty good amount of stars next to their name, who were both recruited by a lot of other big time college football programs. And now you've got a legit battle between these two. Find out who's the best, and the best guy, you would hope, would be the starting quarterback when they take on Tennessee to open up the season. Good luck with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of we're gonna get to it, but there's a lot of good luck with that. With their schedule. But I think this is also a way to win the locker room too, for the two guys, right? Like, there's probably some Ricky Collins fans in the locker room, right? And when he was there in the starter, they're probably excited about it. And then you bring this guy in, and if you just automatically name him the starter without an actual competition, you're going to get some resentment. I'm not saying that, we've talked about the fact that the guys want whoever's best qualified to be the starter, and I get all of that. But they want to see it too. Like, these guys have never seen Steve Angeli play outside of that one drive, and maybe they weren't paying attention to that game.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so, you want to be able to be fair to your locker room as well. You're not just going to bring somebody in, make them a starter, and call it a day when you already named some guy a starter. Like that. It's not the way you want to run your program, and it's not the way to win the locker room, because you would be putting Steve Angeli in a very awkward position at that point. And I don't think that's fair.
They both got a little bit of experience. Angeli has a little bit more experience than Collins. But like at the end of the day, Collins has at least been through spring with the team up there, so there's like some familiarity. Like that drive against Penn State means a heck of a lot less to anyone wearing orange and blue than it does to anyone wearing blue and gold, so
100%.
like that doesn't carry really. I think that carries a lot less weight now. I doubt that the Syracuse fans are going to be chirping in about, well, Angeli at the end of the orange, end of the first half in the Orange Bowl, and that's what's going to be the argument. I think it's going to be an interesting quarterback battle to watch, quite honestly, up there, when they're waging it during their own fall training camp. And like, regardless of who the starter is on, in week 1 for Syracuse, there's a lot of football between then and November 22nd, when Syracuse comes here to Notre Dame. Yeah, November 22nd, when Syracuse comes here to Notre Dame for Notre Dame's senior day. So you could see both of those guys over the course of the season, for that matter.
Oh, I don't care who's named the starter. I think you're going to see both. I think that's fair, especially with the way, how I believe the Syracuse offensive line is. I think you're going to see both guys play. So,
and that's, I don't know if you heard that, but they lost 3 starters from that offensive line, and that is, as Brian Higgins said, other than quarterback, that offensive line is their biggest question. And I think that if it becomes a concern, then yeah, that's like, because of, Steve Angeli's not going to be as mobile as Ricky Collins. Just put it that way.
No, he's not going to be as mobile as a lot of guys out there. So yeah, you're going to need an offensive line that's going to give him time. If he's ever going to have an opportunity to be as effective as he could possibly be, he's going to need some time. And so that's going to be tough.
So since we're talking about Syracuse, let's do another guess the season over-under win total.
My favorite new game. It's my favorite new game.
It's sweeping the nation is what it's doing. We're going to look at the Syracuse schedule for the upcoming season, and then we're going to guess what their FanDuel season over-under win total is. All right. So we've already mentioned the Tennessee game. They play 4 teams that went to the college football playoff, including Tennessee and Notre Dame this season. So it starts August 30th against Tennessee. Then they host UConn, which is kind of an interesting.
Well, it's very. Why is it interesting to you, sir?
Well, to me, it's interesting because UConn was an improved team.
Oh, okay.
Just like Syracuse. Why is it interesting to you, Vince?
Because I believe they really wanted Steve Angeli, from what I can gather.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I don't know, how close it was in the eyes of Steve Angeli and his people. But that was a school that really wanted him.
Man.
So very interesting. They play.
And if UConn would have managed to get him, would have lost us the bet with Jesse. Jesse would have been getting a lot of free food.
I know. I mean, I know there were other schools interested as well, but I know they really wanted him. So,
okay.
Hey, that's okay. Because I plan on cashing in on that this week, by the way. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I need to do that as well. So Tennessee to open the season, then UConn, and then Colgate. And that Tennessee game, by the way, is not a home game. That's down in Atlanta is where they're playing that game. Colgate week 3, and then Syracuse goes to Clemson for their 4th game of the season. Then they host Duke. Then they go to SMU, won the ACC, of course, last year. And then Pittsburgh, home game. Pittsburgh had a nice start to last season, of course, before they collapsed over the last month. Then they're at Georgia Tech. They host North Carolina. They're at Miami, at Notre Dame, and then Boston College to close out the season. So the game is, what is the FanDuel over-under? I have not looked. Vince, I hope, has not looked.
Nope.
We refrain from actually looking. We're going to guess what we think the FanDuel Sportsbook season over-under win total is. The official listed line for the Syracuse Orange.
Oh man, I'm stuck between one or another. So I'm stuck between 5.5 and 6.5.
Okay.
To be honest with you, and I think with the addition of Steve Angeli, I'm going to go 6.5, and I'm taking the under.
Okay. So my initial reaction was 7.5, and I'm basing this off the fact that they won 10 games last year. They went 10-3. Now, the schedule last year compared to this year, night and day different. They had a very favorable schedule.
Yes, they did.
Year. Like, they played Ohio University, not Ohio State, Georgia Tech, Stanford, which was actually their first loss, Holy Cross. They beat UNLV in overtime. They beat NC State. They lost to Pittsburgh. They beat Virginia Tech in overtime. They lost to Boston College. Then they beat Cal, UConn, and Miami to close out the regular season.
Wow,
before picking up win number 10 against Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. So my initial gut reaction was 7.5.
Okay.
Because of the fact that they won 10 games last
Sure.
year and how much Vegas might factor that in. But then, like, when you look at some of the results of last year, they needed, overtime a couple of times. They lost to Pittsburgh. They beat, didn't have a very difficult schedule by any stretch last year. So I'm with you, and I'm going 6.5 is the number.
All right, here we go.
All right, so I'm opening up the app. Where is Syracuse? There is Syracuse. 5.5.
I should have gone with my gut. I should have gone with my gut instinct. Tommy, you were right. I should have gone 5.5. Dang it.
5.5. Yep.
I hate to say it, but I would, if it's 5.5, I would even take the under.
I don't know. I'd go over on 5.5.
Okay.
That's
we
not
should
an easy schedule by any stretch.
I think we need to record these because we'd have to go into December to find out who's right on a lot of these.
That's true.
But I don't know. Might be fun. But
it's true.
I just think there's a lot of potential for losses on that schedule. And you know how it goes when you pick up a loss or two, sometimes those can snowball. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man. I just feel like the snowball effect could be there.
Because even, Boston College is not going to be an easy game.
Right.
To end the season.
Especially after they get, horsewhipped by Notre Dame.
But, I mean, they closed the season with Georgia Tech, North Carolina. Who knows what North Carolina is going to be? We're going to talk about Bill Belichick in a little bit. Miami, Notre Dame, both on the road, Boston College. After opening with Tennessee and Clemson, 2 of their first 4 games. That's a hard open and a hard close right there.
It is. Like I said, some things can snowball, and that, they might be able to rebound a little bit after that start, but that ending is tough. This ending's tough.
Yeah. I agree with Josh. 6 wins is possible. If I'm going definite, I don't even know what the definite 5. There's really, Colgate is supposed to be the only gimme, but again, they lost to Syracuse last year. So I don't know. All right, it's going to be challenging for them. We won't have to deal with it. We'll see Syracuse in November.
No, we won't. We'll talk about it, though, in November.
Yep. In the meantime, Dane Brugler from The Athletic, of course, puts out his annual pre-draft guide known as The Beast. In this year's version, Xavier Watts was the only Notre Dame player who ranked in the top 4 of any position group that Brugler put out. What Notre Dame players do you give the best chance to be in the top 4 in their position group rankings a year from now for the 2026 draft?
This is tough. Obviously Jeremiah Love would be one.
My lock?
That's a lock. Yeah, Jeremiah Love is going to be top 4. Come on now. So I think he's going to be one. I think Christian Gray has a chance, but probably not.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, obviously, if he has a big year,
right,
he could end up there. I think it's probably more realistic that he's like a top 10-ish type guy than a top 4, probably.
Charles Jagusaw, I think, has an opportunity to be in that conversation with the pronunciation, because I've been working on it. I think he has an opportunity to be in that conversation. I think Malachi Fields has an opportunity to be in that conversation, just based on that.
We just had the
draft. Yeah, I mean,
someone's mocking him to go number 8 overall, which we both feel like is a stretch, but
we do.
Number 1 overall in terms of wide receivers, number 8 overall in the draft, top wide receiver.
Yeah,
going. But I mean, if he comes even close to that, he should be in the top 4. So,
do they do specialists?
I don't think so. I mean, they might do kickers. I don't know.
Because I was thinking there's a chance that Rendell could be as a punter.
True.
There's a chance. You know what I mean? Like, just going through the roster, there's a chance. So, we're just doing draft eligible for next year, right?
Right. And that's what I was going to say. KVA is not eligible for next year.
Misunderstood the question.
We're doing next year's draft, the 2026 draft. Yeah, and so like, Leonard Moore is not eligible. Yeah, like CJ Carr is not eligible.
KVA is not eligible. Yeah,
But you got to be draft eligible a year from now.
Right.
I'm kind of along the lines of what you're thinking. Like, if I'm going confidence, my number 1 confidence would be Jeremiah Love.
Yep.
Charles Jagusaw, I almost said it wrong, would be my number 2. Then Malachi Fields. I've got Drake Bowen in there.
Yeah.
Off-ball linebacker. Like, I mean, it's kind of sneaky that he is draft eligible a year from now because he's going into his junior season. And again, we're talking top 4 at your position group, not overall. So Bowen would be my next guy. And then I've got a Don Schuler and Boubacar Traore as my next 2 possibilities. And I mean, Schuler right now is not in that, in that range.
He needs to come out of the shadow of Xavier Watts.
But if he shows the kind of growth that he made from freshman year to last year, if he does like the same, kind of growth this year to, 2024 to 2025, I think he's got a chance to be in that conversation for safeties. And like you said, he's going to be out of Xavier Watts' shadow as well. There's just going to be a ton of opportunities for him back there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Some people are saying Price. I just don't think he's going to be in the top 4 entire college football. I don't think that's a bit of a stretch.
Again, I think he could be a top 10.
Yeah, for sure.
Potentially. Because they're going to be splitting the load. And, like just look at what happened with Judkins and Henderson at Ohio State. So I think he's got a chance to be like a top 10-ish type guy, maybe even top 8. But I think top 4, maybe a little bit tougher.
Yeah. I don't like people in the chat are talking about anybody, any position group has a chance to have 2 guys on it. I just don't know that I see that being possible. Like that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the only position group I would give them a chance to have 2 in the top 4 would be running back. Love and Price.
That would be I'm
not saying it's impossible that Price could end up in the top 4. I think it's a little bit.
If anything, tougher. They'll take votes away from each other. You know what I mean? As opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
And so I just don't see a second guy popping in. So that's tough.
Yeah. And I mean, Traore, if he comes back from injury and is able to pick up where he left off last season, then every reason to believe he could be in that conversation. Somebody said Botelho, I think, and I
don't think there's enough there.
Yeah. I think he's got a chance to be a really good, really good, productive college defensive end this year, and a chance to have a pro career. But I like in terms of overall edge rushers, I don't know if I'd put him in that top 4 conversation.
Yeah.
Andrew Gilmore says, what about Emil Wagner?
I just don't think he's going to be the steady Eddie. He's going to get drafted. I just don't think he's going to be in the top 4 tackles in college football. I just don't see that being the case. And somebody mentioned Billy Shroud. I think Billy Shroud's really, really good. If we're going to parse out tackle, guard, center, does he have a chance to be a top 4 guard? It's possible. I don't think he's going to be top 4 offensive line, so it just depends on how we're classifying. Yeah.
Andrew is saying you can't move Wagner inside in the NFL. I think that's what he's saying, because Martin was moved and said, I just don't see Wagner being big enough to move inside in the NFL, like to play guard. I think he needs a little more girth behind him to do that, personally.
Yeah, he's not even 300 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't see, and that's always been his issue. He can't keep on big weight, so he's going to end up being a tackle. I don't think he's going to be moved inside. I don't see that being the case. No.
Yeah. Gilmore, Andrew follows that up with center. I mean, Liam Eichenberg has played some center for the Dolphins in his time in the NFL. I think that was 2 years ago. I'm not sure if he was even still with the team last year, if he was hurt or what happened to him. I remember looking for him this past season, but I mean, yeah, I'm sure if you're athletic enough and you're able to figure it all out, he could, but making that transition, I don't think is necessarily, just a given, just because a guy can't play. I mean, like, he's definitely athletic enough to be a good, a really good college tackle. But, like, in terms of that next step, the weight, I think, is just a really big issue for him, because he's had such a hard time just getting to 300 pounds as it is, to play in college.
Right. Agreed.
So Watts, of course, was one of a handful of Notre Dame guys to get drafted last weekend. What's one thing you remember about Xavier Watts from his time at Notre Dame?
Well, from his playing time, it is the USC interception with him mocking the bench as he goes by. Like, that will always stick in my brain, because it's something that if I had any kind of talent, I would have loved to do. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I feel like he was speaking for the fans. Like, that was awesome. You know what I mean? It was just the absolute nail in the coffin to that game. It was, ballsy. It was everything that you would want. Like, that is the one play that I will always remember from Xavier Watts. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And I would just, I would even take it a level beyond that. I would just say USC, and take your pick which USC game, because remember the year before, when he picked off Caleb Williams twice and then finished off that game with a scoop and score on the fumble. Like, he literally the last 2 years made a career out of causing turnovers and scoring touchdowns against USC. So, and then the 100-yard pick six, obviously. And I think you're right. Like, the stare down going down the sideline was
just fantastic.
Was obviously the best part of it. Yeah. So,
yeah.
So Xavier Watts, USC is going to come to mind when I think of Xavier Watts 10 years down the line.
And, part of the memory of Xavier Watts is also going to be, moving all over the place, trying to figure out what position he was going to be.
The journey to get there. That's right.
Because that way he went on quite a journey to become who he became at Notre Dame. You know what I mean? And, happy that he was able to find his spot at safety, but the dude's talented. He could have been successful at any position that they were trying him out at, but obviously he settled in at safety. But I'm just going to remember that kind of back and forth, that ping pong ball game of him just moving all over the place, mid-season at times. You know what I mean? Remember they moved him to wide receiver because it was injuries, and he moved all over the place.
All right, I got a few others we're going to do, guys who got drafted. How about Benjamin Morrison? The thing you'll most remember about Benjamin Morrison from his time at Notre Dame?
It's going to be his freshman year, coming in as a true freshman. Not necessarily, a specific play per se. And I'm sure you'll come up with a play that I'll be like, yep, now that's the one. But it's just the fact that, like, he came in as a true freshman and became a freshman All-American. Tommy, you're right. The Clemson pick six is,
and that's mine. The 96-yard pick six. But he also, remember, he had 2 interceptions
right
that game.
I mean, he was just so good as a true freshman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just so stinking good. And it's a shame that he got injured this year. Now we got to be introduced to another freshman in Leonard Moore because of that. But it's a shame he got injured because he is that good. He is so good. And it's one of those deals where during that season you think to yourself, man, we got 3 years of this and that's it. So you better enjoy it while you got it. And I hope Notre Dame fans did that.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly feels like he's been here longer than he has, just because of the fact that he came in and was so significant as a freshman that year. And it was really, I think, some of the first signs of what this secondary was shaping up to be, like what it's turned into in the really over these last 3 seasons under Mike Mickens, and like look at what Leonard Moore, virtually the same story last year, and look at what he's already become this year. So,
yeah, I mean, and Benjamin Morrison, so obviously the pick against Clemson, yes, but what he ended up doing to the Ohio State receivers as well when he had that opportunity, that was real. You know what I mean? He made those guys completely inconsequential when they were lined up against Benjamin Morrison. So that I will also remember that, just all the hype that they were getting, and then Benjamin Morris was like, yeah, you got nothing when you're lining up against me. So
right. Going back to the running back conversation in the top 4 position group rankings next year in terms of the draft, Ballpeen says if Quinshawn and Travion can go top 4 RBs, he thinks Price can go top 4 with Love at number 1. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Yeah. I just think it's going to be. I think it's tough to have 2 guys from the same school in that conversation. But I mean, we'll see. If they both end up, around 1,000 yards, and especially if Notre Dame goes deep into the playoffs again, I think that they will have a legitimate shot to be considered.
Yeah.
How about Riley Leonard? Mine is one that you were there in person for. The flip in the Sugar Bowl. Like, that says, I think, everything that you need to know about Riley Leonard, about what he was willing to do, putting his body on the line to help secure the victory there in what at the time was Notre Dame's biggest win in 3 decades, to beat the Georgia Bulldogs in that game in the Sugar Bowl.
I mean, that's the one we always talked about, right? We talked about the fact, or I would always say, like, the IU game is a big game, but it doesn't count. It's at the stadium. It's not the big bowl game that you need to get off your back, and we kind of had that argument and that debate.
Yes, we did.
But to your point, I mean, that Georgia game, obviously down in New Orleans with everything that was on the line, as well as everything that happened the night before. And I mean, just all of it, right? I mean, that whole playoff run epitomizes who Riley Leonard was.
Yep.
There were a lot of guys made plays. Don't get me wrong. It is a team game. It's what I love about football. But you're right. That flip just to make sure that they were going to get that first down and get that victory and everything that you needed it to be. It was. He just was the consummate leader of that team and did it on the field. He did it off the field. I mean, he did it in the press conference. Like, Riley Leonard's always going to be remembered. But for on the field, that was pretty freaking awesome, man.
That was it. That was it. Awesome. That's right. And look, you're not going to beat that caliber of team in spite of your quarterback. Like, your quarterback has to be a big part of it. And remember, that was part of that drive at the end of the game where they chewed up, what was it, like 6.5, 7 minutes or something like that. And, where the punt and the shifting and the offsides and all that stuff came as well. But that was really kind of the seal the deal type thing. They needed that first down and they got it, out of Riley Leonard. And I think I think a lot of people are going to remember him for that. Like TD4ND says, Riley is a special dude. And,
you'd love to have him for more than a year, as Tommy said. No doubt about it. He's a guy that it's easy to root for. He just, with his high school career, he wasn't going to Notre Dame out of high school. You know what I mean? That's just not reality. But I'm glad he finished at Notre Dame. That's for darn sure.
All right, last one is Jack Kiser.
Jack Kiser, I don't know that I have a specific moment on the field. It's just all I ever think about with Jack Kiser is Royal Center, Indiana. You know what I mean? Like one stoplight, like the whole that's all I can think about. It's just that,
Yeah, like to me, it's not a moment as much as it's kind of like a career achievement award, because the guy was here for 6 years and literally ends up playing more games than anyone at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And, it's like he went from this, there was kind of, because of, it was a small school, and, he played both sides of the ball. He played quarterback, he played defensive back, and all this different stuff. And like, there was all this kind of untapped potential, especially moving in, to like big time college football and playing linebacker for Notre Dame. And it's like, was it going to happen? It seemed like there were times when, it was going to, and it really, it took all 6 years, but at the end of the day, the guy's going to the NFL now, so like, great guy, great career. And, again, just such a huge part of a team that played for a national championship just a few months ago.
Sean, he's the all-time winningest defensive player in Notre Dame history. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I believe that's accurate anyway, and I'm going to say it anyway since he started for like 6 years. But, does it mean that Jack Kiser was the best quarterback that's ever played? I mean, best linebacker that's ever played at Notre Dame? I don't think it does. But he racked up a lot of wins out there at middle linebacker, and he always had a nose for the football.
Yep.
And he was fun to watch, man. Like he again, similar to Riley Leonard, consummate leader, was never shaken, knew where everybody was supposed to be every single play, was, super smart in the classroom as well. So, I mean, he checked all the boxes, man. Like, he's the type of guy that when you draft him, as the Jacksonville Jaguars did, you just take a deep breath, man. You're just like, okay, like, we don't have to worry about anything with this kid. You know what I mean? Like, you worry about the production or whatever, football wise, fine, but you're not going to have to worry about anything in the locker room. You're not going to have to worry about him going out and partying. It's just, you don't worry about anything with this guy. He's just going to be, I saw an interview with him after he got drafted. He's like, I'm super excited because all I have to do is learn the playbook. Like, all I have to do is be a football player. He's like, normally I'm, taking tests and doing, homework and doing all these different things. All I have to do is worry about football. Can you imagine all his energy focused on football? Like, he's just a guy you don't have to worry about.
It just kind of sunk in to me as well when you said that about him as the all-time winningest defensive player. Like, no one thinks about it like that. The only position we talk about that is the quarterback.
Right.
Everyone wants to trumpet the quarterback. It's because, he's the all-time winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history. But what about the other side of the ball? What about like when people talk about Jack Kiser, I think we need to make that a thing from now on. Vince.
I agree.
When we talk about Jack Kiser, Ian Book is the all-time winningest quarterback at Notre Dame, but Jack Kiser is the all-time winningest defensive player at Notre Dame.
Because who wouldn't be the all-time winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history? Ian Book, if he didn't have a defense, because the defense won a hell of a lot of those games. And
yes,
so I think you got to give props. Because look, here's the thing about a middle linebacker too, because it's obviously the quarterback of the defense. I think we can all agree on that. And you're not just learning your playbook, which is obviously something important. You're literally trying to predict what the other team is going to do. Now, there is some element to that at quarterback, but you're still dictating things as the offense versus when you're the defense, you're trying to, look for keys and look for certain things about what the offense is going to do and then executing that. It is a very, very tough, position to prepare for. And
I concur.
I can't imagine Jack Kiser with nothing else to do except prepare for a football game. Like, he is going to be ready to roll.
This was not shade at Ian Book. This is not shade. Like, maybe Vince was throwing shade. I wasn't throwing shade at Ian Book. I'm just saying it's only the quarterback who's known for that kind of thing, for that specific distinction. Nobody else on the team who played with Ian Book is known as the all-time winningest left tackle or the all-time winningest offensive lineman or the all-time winningest running back. It's only the quarterback when you think about it. That's all I'm saying.
It's a little shade on my end.
Yeah, Vince doesn't mind throwing shade.
I'll admit it, but the conversation still bodes, time because of exactly what you just said. And that's why I brought it up. Was I throwing a little shade? Yes, I was. But at the same time, it needs to be brought up.
It's good to know. Andrew was sticking that dagger directly in your heart. So
I'm saying that Ian Book doesn't win all those games without a national championship level defense is what I was saying. Are we really going to sit back and say that, the offense is what got Notre Dame to the playoff every other year that they went? Come on now. Let's just be realistic. It was the defense that got them there.
I might disagree with that a little bit. Like it's not like they were riding that defense. It's not like the defenses that they had were so elite that that's more like 2012, I think, than either 18 or 21. Like, don't you think? Like, they were good defenses.
They're really good defenses.
I don't think they were as good as this year's defense, though.
Fair. That's fair. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Andrew, very ardent. The input guy. He did finish top 10 in the Heisman in 2020.
Throwing 16 touchdowns. That's because of the helmet that he wore, not anything that he did on the field.
Okay, let's get off this. Let's not start bashing more players now.
Come on now. That was ridiculous. And he went in the 4th round, and he's still in the NFL and has Super Bowl rings.
Now that...
I'm just saying, that's what people
you're part of the roster. Okay, but we don't need social media blasts about Ian Book in the Super Bowl. Like, talk to me when he actually plays in the Super Bowl.
Or suits up.
Yeah. I think he might have for this one. He might have. Because they changed the rule about, like the amount of quarterbacks you could suit up and all that kind of stuff. But I can't say for sure. I don't remember scanning the sidelines looking for him. So, all right. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says he's considering shortening the first round of the draft. He's considering the idea of giving teams 7 minutes to make their picks rather than the current 10 minutes that you get per pick. But here is the caveat or the little twist on this whole thing. You get 7 minutes, but a team could get a 2-minute extension once during the draft. So like you're getting up against the clock, the 7 minutes is winding down. Maybe you're trying to work a deal or something. You can say, I want my 2-minute extension. You could do that once, but they can't use the extension again once you've used it. What do you think of this idea? You buy or sell it?
I actually buy it. Number one, it'll speed things up, which I'm all for, and you get one opportunity to go an extra 2 minutes. Roll it. Let's go. I think I think I'm all for speeding up that first round because that is a struggle to have 10 minutes for 32 teams. Like that's a struggle for me. So 7 minutes, that's going to cut that thing down significantly. And if you're really having it, because like, look, you pretty much know who you're going to take in the first round. Like maybe somebody takes the guy that you had circled. You know who the second guy is. Okay.
I mean, it's the first round. Like you should have a pretty good chart ready to go.
I almost feel like it should be reversed. Like you should have like 5 minutes in the first round and get more minutes in the 6th and 7th because you're really kind of grasping at straws at that point. I don't know.
I like what Andrew said. Just go on auto pick like fantasy football.
Yeah, right.
That's the best choice.
Well, then Shador would have been taken a lot earlier, but
Yeah, I guess that's true. Right. That's true because especially if you were using Mel Kiper's rankings.
I mean, how often was he up there for best available? Like he just lived in that slot for 2 days.
And look, part of the problem is this is a TV show as well.
Absolutely.
So like watching throughout the weekend, I don't know how many times they would conveniently take a commercial break right before the Dallas Cowboys would make a pick, because you're taking your break. It's like your Ryan Seacrest moment. We'll make the Cowboys pick after the break. So yeah, it's like the whole thing is a TV show. I think because of the breaks that they've got to get in anyway, And the fact that, like, how many times did you sit there and on the screen it says pick is in, and then they keep talking about something else and you're waiting for them to come up. It's like, okay, if the pick is in, then actually let's hear what the pick is. We don't need more talking, about everything else. So I'm all for it. I say shorten it. Ryan says double it. He wants 15 minutes instead of just 10. I'm sorry. That first night is brutal when you're just waiting for 32 teams to make their picks. Get it on.
Yeah.
Get it over with.
The only reason the only reason it's that long is because they got to interview the guy. They've got to interview the parents.
That's true.
Got to, it's like
there is a bit more of that. That's true.
Which I get it. You're like you said, it's a TV show. I'm all for the 7. Let's roll with 7. Let's go.
Okay, so Bill Belichick, he's got a new book out, and he did an interview on CBS Sunday Morning to promote the book this weekend. Here's a little snippet. You may have heard some snippets of this. It's been going around.
Oh, I saw
the other change for Belichick is 24-year-old Jordan Hudson, his creative muse, as he writes in his book.
Make sure that that's the...
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordan right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on, though Hudson has recently posted about it on Instagram.
You joined InstaFace, as you put it. I love that. There's some great pictures of you and Jordan, where you're a fisherman and she's a mermaid. It's charming. It's a different side of you. What's the reaction been like?
What's it been like?
To have these different sort of photos. There's another one where you're doing, I know you're not into meditation or yoga or Pilates, but you're balancing Jordan on your feet. And she's doing kind of the Titanic pose.
Yeah, so I'm on some of those social media platforms, but I honestly don't follow them.
All right, so there it is, the scintillating Bill Belichick interview, and you heard his lady friend Jordan Hudson chiming in there, and it got a little awkward to watch.
A little awkward.
Scale of 1 to total insanity. How crazy was the Belichick interview?
Sean, it started out great. Like was the most,
he's like talking football and
most vocal he's been, like the most conversational I think he's really ever been in an interview. Like, it was great. I was like, this is really interesting. My wife was watching it because we watched it live on Sunday morning. And, and it was a little odd that he was wearing like his Navy sweatshirt from like 1872 or whatever it was. Like, that was a little odd. But then when they started talking about the relationship, it was like old Bill Belichick came back, and it was like one-word answers, and it was like all of a sudden he didn't understand English, basically, and he had no idea how to answer anything, and it just got weird. It got really, really weird. And that is not an out-of-bounds question, by the way.
No, and it's not only not an out-of-bounds question. Like, if your girlfriend, who is obviously so involved in everything that you're doing, because she's on the payroll at North Carolina, apparently, and she's essentially operating as his like his stage mom. I don't know what else to call it in this situation. Yeah. But you're promoting a book, and like, again, InstaFace, Instagram, whatever. Like, he has notoriously been a guy who has not paid any attention to any of that kind of stuff. So, like, did you not anticipate that any of these kind of questions that were going to come up in what's a total fluff interview? Because it's not even for CBS Sports. It's for CBS Sunday Morning. You're promoting a book. Like, you didn't anticipate any of these kind of questions were going to come up?
I mean,
because he seems completely stumped by him as well.
It's a 50-year age difference. People are going to be interested in that, like, because it's just not the norm. And I don't understand why they've got such a fence around that information and that relationship when they're putting out these ridiculous, by the way. Did you see the pictures that they were referring to on Instagram and stuff?
Yes.
Like, he's took the time to pose for those ridiculous pictures knew that they were going on social media.
Well,
like,
and
he didn't ask questions.
both of them are in the photo, so it's not even like
Correct.
they're taking selfies. Someone
Right.
else is
Yes.
professionally taking the
It was a
picture.
photo shoot. That's
Yes.
what that was. It was a
Yes.
photo shoot that you agreed to because you're 70 plus and she's 20 plus and she asks you to do it. So you do it. I don't have a problem with that. But don't pretend like you don't know that people want to see it and that social media is a buzz about it, because I guarantee she's talking to you about it. Like, you know what it sounded like to me, what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when baseball was on Capitol Hill and all of a sudden Sammy Sosa didn't know how to speak English.
Right.
That's what it reminded me of.
Right.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
Right.
come on, Bill.
And Mark
You know
McGuire,
exactly.
Mark McGuire, I'm not here to talk about
Right.
the past. I'm here to talk about the future.
It was
You know?
so awkward. Like, come on, man. Like, it would have been less of a deal if you just answered the question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
And apparently Wayne is new to the show. He says, "Is the Notre Dame world so slow? You're talking about this." We did just spend over an hour talking about Notre Dame football with some Syracuse mixed in with the
Yeah, we
Angeli, twist on it. But Wayne, if you're new to the show, this is a segment called Rapid Fire. And again, the first, I don't know how many, we spent over a half an hour, the first half hour of Rapid Fire talking about Notre Dame stuff. And what we typically do is we transition over the course of a rapid fire segment into other broader sports topics.
Because it's sports talk.
Because it's IB Nation
mean,
sports talk. But welcome to the show. If
This
you're
is
new to the
topical.
show,
This is topical,
we appreciate
Wayne. It's topical. Who wouldn't want to talk about Bill Belichick and
on a totally free show for everyone to listen
Yeah,
to.
I know, right? Exactly.
The interviewer, this is the one, the interviewer did bring up no mention of Robert Kraft in the book. And Belichick, again, I wish I had the audio for that, but
that was awkward.
Belichick,
too, by the way.
again, acted, that was like the first time it really got awkward, I think. He, like, you're surprised that you wrote this book about your career with the New England Patriots and the owner of the team was Robert Kraft, and someone's going to ask about the fact that you didn't mention him. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with him not mentioning Robert Kraft, because I don't know if you saw any of that Patriots documentary that was, how shall I say it? It was essentially, it was very pro Robert Kraft, where Robert Kraft wants badly to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so they made this documentary that was, about the Patriots that was more or less focused on him. And he kind of, the tone of the documentary and, some specific points where they essentially, take shots at Bill Belichick, in this documentary that is essentially a fluff piece for Robert Kraft to try to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it hasn't worked yet. So if Robert Kraft is going to do that, do you really think that Bill Belichick is going to have anything nice to say about Robert Kraft in return? And there was disagreement as well about, Belichick's like, well, we parted on mutual terms. And the guy was like, well, Robert Kraft said he fired you, so it's like they can't even agree on it. But again, did you not think that was going to come up at any point in your book tour about your time with the New England Patriots?
Because, Robert Kraft is a very active owner. You know what I mean? He's not like all owners. Not all owners are active. He's a super active owner, right? I think we can all agree on that. And I actually, outside of maybe the way he's going about it, I think Robert Kraft probably has a pretty good argument to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, with what he was able to do with the Patriots organization and where he brought it to as the owner. You know what I mean? And I think if he's just patient, it'll probably happen. But, the divorce of Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft and all of those different things. And Bill could have handled that completely differently. Like, this is a book about me and football and
right. That's really all he had to say. This is my book.
Yeah.
He's
making it more of a story than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Again.
And again, with his Jordan Hudson sitting off to the side, you would have thought that, again, considering his background, considering what this book is about, considering the whole thing, like you would have thought that they would have gone over some points about this is probably going to come up. This is probably how you should address it. But he stumbled on literally what should have been layups in this interview. If you're North Carolina, how you feeling about Belichick as your head coach right now?
Oh, man. I mean, I just don't know how I felt when he was hired in the first place, to be perfectly honest with you. And, it just didn't feel like a great fit with Bill and college in general. And I just don't know that it's gotten any better since then. So now winning cures all, obviously. And we'll see if the Patriot way ends up being the Tar Heel way and they end up winning a bunch of games. I just don't see that being the case.
I don't either.
And so I think it's only going to get worse as they move forward. I think people are going to turn on Bill Belichick real quick, and he is not going to ingratiate himself talking about the way speaking the way he speaks in press conferences after tough games. Like, that's not going to ingratiate himself with the.
Because, I mean, that's kind of what he tried to slip into over the course of this interview, which, again, was a total fluff piece. All they were, like stuff that you should have been able to give a couple of, even if it was, and he gave a couple 1 or 2 word answers as well. But
he did. But he just, like, it wasn't normal Bill Belichick 1-word answers in this interview, though. It was like weird, confused old man Bill Belichick. Like it wasn't the normal, like, we're on to Cincinnati, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that. It was just, I don't know.
Well,
it's like he was unprepared for the interview. How about that?
Exactly. And again, football stuff aside, as it relates to North Carolina, he's wearing a Navy sweatshirt. And I realize his dad was a coach at Navy, and he used to go to practice with his dad at Navy, and he, used to be the ball boy for Roger Staubach and all that stuff at Navy. I get that. That's cool. And it's like, it's cool. It's cool to wear the Navy sweatshirt, the weathered, hole in the Navy sweatshirt when you're the head coach of the New England Patriots.
Right.
But now you're the head coach at North Carolina. And so again, it's a total whiff. You're going on national TV and you're not even going to wear something that says, powder blue North Carolina, a little Jumpman logo.
Right.
Like,
right.
You're the head coach at North Carolina. It was an easy promotional opportunity that he completely whiffed on because he's wearing the Navy sweatshirt. I know it's, it might seem simple, but to me, it's like too simple. Like,
right. Exactly.
What are you doing?
It just, and she had a Navy thing on too. And I don't know. It's just a whole like weird saga. To me, I love the Navy. I love Top Gun.
I'm not anti-Navy. I'm not saying anything like that.
It's just a weird, like, I just didn't want anybody to like go down that road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it's just a weird representation. Like, he should be decked out from head to toe in Jumpman North Carolina gear.
Exactly.
For that interview.
Exactly.
Period.
But it wasn't a radio interview. It wasn't a podcast interview. You were on
bizarre
national TV.
Bizarre. And
hey, Bill Belichick's got a book. So
yeah, that, from what I'm seeing on social media, he didn't even want to write in the first place. Like, it just, the whole thing is just
the question is, how much did he actually write?
Fair.
How much was Belichick, sitting there with the ghostwriter? And it's like, well, back in 2003.
Right. Can only imagine how awesome he was to work with.
Yeah. All right. So that's it.
Man.
That's all we've got for tonight. I feel like we went pretty long in rapid fire.
Almost an hour for rapid fire alone.
We did.
Hey, it's all good.
So I hope that makes up for the fact that everyone was so disappointed. The fact that we have a pre-recorded interview to start the show off tonight. We had a fully live, almost hour-long rapid fire. We appreciate everybody who hung out tonight.
Hey.
Wayne, that includes you.
Wayne, thanks
You're
for hanging here. Appreciate you. And we'll be back tomorrow, Sean. We'll be back and ready for more.
We will. Vince will be here. Jesse might be back later in the week. I don't know exactly, but we do appreciate
Thursday.
you as always. Hit the like button before you leave, and we'll talk to you later on Nice DK.
I like that.
That's a great follow-up. His reprise or pre-written.
I appreciate that.
Live is always good when we can. We try, but again,
can't
control when a guest is available.
This is true.
the guest is not available in the prescribed time period, we have to make the best of it. And most of the time,
we even
they're
tried
not available.
doubling. We even tried doubling the amount we pay them, and we still had to do the recorded version. So
True.
it is what it is.
All right, hit the like button. We'll talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.